Hi everyone, it's Rob Watson, the Module Leader for TECH3501, and this is the overview summary video for Lecture 22, which is about the capacity evaluation using the communication for development model that we've been looking at over previous weeks. So what I want to consider in this session is the idea of what it is that we need to think about in terms of how we have sufficient capacity within an organisation in order to be able to maintain and encourage a greater sense of evaluative practice, a kind of ongoing sense of evaluative practice, but a kind of practice which doesn't get bogged down in numbers and figures and, if you like, what we call instrumental kind of forms of knowledge and comprehension of social situations, but it's something which is derived from and drawn from people's experience. So this is the ethnographically informed approach to evaluation, which asks what is it that people are undertaking in their practice, in their real world situations, and what kind of information can we glean and take from those situations that inform us about how we understand what the interactions are and how they're structured, and what it is that people are seeking to accomplish, what the meanings are, what the relationships are about, and how these are maintained and how they change. Because one of the driving issues that we need to think about is that social change, takes place, and it's with the changes that we see in technology and kind of globalization. These things take place at a very rapid pace, and keeping up with social change is not an easy thing to do. So we can look to, if you like, the media metrics and statistics and demographic data, and that can tell us what, but it doesn't explain why people use media and why people work in particular ways. So it has to be something which is grounded in local cultures and the understanding that people have different perspectives and different traditions of thinking. So this draws on those kind of local knowledge bases. So we take into account, if you like, cultural considerations from different social situations, and we also want to do this in terms of, this is not about quick hits. This is a long-term approach of evaluation, and this is a way of thinking about how social change can be responded to or absorbed or rejected even, because not all social change is necessarily positive. It can be regressive, so forms of social change, and we kind of need to be observant and be attuned to the idea of what those changes are about and how they work. So it's what Lenny and Tashu argue is that organisations really need to shift from being, if you like, thinking about community media organisations, people who go and help people to learn to communicate more effectively. Those organisations need to shift from training to learning, and what they mean by that is you can acquire skills, you can acquire training, and you can show people what to do. But do they know why they're doing it? Do they know what they're producing? And I've said this on a number of occasions, but the idea that if you only give people hammers, all your problems look like nails. So what happens is, lots of people are very focused on very small nails, but you don't know what you're making. So having that ability to step back from the task at hand, you think you're working on a wardrobe, making, you've got your wood, you've got your hammer, you've got your nails, you're making something. It turns out to be a ship, or it turns out to be, a ladder, or something completely different than you thought you were anticipating that you were making, because you need that holistic view. You need to be able to step back and look at the process. So you need a culture of evaluation that fits in with the local circumstances and the local needs. So you need to undertake a form of needs analysis, and you need to undertake a form of impact analysis that kind of says, okay, this is if we do this, then these are the likely changes that's going to make. But we need the evidence to find, an organisation needs to be feeding this continuously, to be continuously evaluating what difference it makes to do things in a particular way. What I'm going to try and do with this is draw on some of the experience from John and I, the trip that we've had to Cambodia, and also there's some I've drawn on some kind of Google search issues around Cambodian development agencies in Cambodia. It seemed a useful way to look at this. So Lenny and Tashi kind of say that we need to define what capacity development is. I have a sign on my door, which is from Zygmunt Bauman, who's a sociologist, who says, paraphrasing, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but he says it's one thing to seek to change the aims that you want to, of what you want to achieve. It's another thing to change your capability to do that. Capacity and capability. We can have all the dreams that we want of being something or achieving something, but if we don't have the capacity, realistically assess the capacity, then we're never going to achieve those changes. So the whole process is about being realistic and about being attuned to what those realistic capacity development issues might be. And this requires, if you like, alternative approaches. It requires a more integrated, grassroots, ground up kind of approach. And it calls for a more holistic sense of how communication processes and communication development processes interlink with other forms of sustainability and social engagement and those kind of things. So this is a much more participative model of communication engagement, and it's focused on developing learning cultures, the idea that people have the capacity to reflect and have the capacity to learn from experience, because I think one of the challenges is we only ever really report of the successes. You only ever really find out the things that work. And what we really need to learn from is where things don't work and where things haven't worked and where things have gone wrong and where things have fallen apart and things have not been achieved. And I think if our focus is on figuring out why things don't work, then maybe we can redress some of the issues and find out models and ways to help things to actually work. And I think one of the challenges with this is that we have an opportunity, if you like, to build a model of organisational development and community, which is founded on the development of trust and the development of social solidarity and social integration. And it's kind of, if that's our aim, if that's our objective, conflict resolution, inclusiveness, addressing issues of voice poverty and economic poverty and social poverty and all of those issues, then we need a way to do this in a way which is practical and which is suited to the social circumstances in which we are engaged, and what the kind of language and kind of aims of this should be in terms of how we think about how this is applied in any particular cultural context. So who is empowered in this process is an important question, and the language that we use is and the way that we describe and the way that we talk about these issues is very important and relevant, because what we want to get out of this is a process which tells us about those social circumstances that we can use in a practical and engaged and sustainable way, so that people feel that they can support these projects. Right, the notes are available up on the DMU Commons wiki. Just go to wiki.our.dmu.ac.uk and look for the TECH3501 section. If you want to share any ideas, if you've got any examples that you think are useful and that would benefit other students, or just to engage in conversation and discussion about this, go over to talk.our.dmu.ac.uk, log in there, and we'll carry on the conversation. But I'll see you at the lecture.